Creators. What happens when you seek the edge of your own consciousness? That place where the old you ends and your new self begins. Unfortunately, most people never get there. That place where your current identity ends and your next level begins, most people never get there because getting there requires something most of us were never trained to do, and that's release control of reality. If you're like me, you were trained to never need anyone. Because if you ever needed someone, they could leave and leave you stranded, alone, feeling sunken. So you stay inside what feels safe, what feels familiar, what feels controllable, and slowly but surely put the limits of self doubt and the shackles of limiting beliefs on your own wrist. That's exactly what our guest tonight is up against. Tonight, you're going to meet a woman named Deborah. And Deborah is a woman who wants more income, more expansion, a bigger life. She wants more freedom in her business, but she's stuck doing everything herself, not because she lacks opportunity, but because she doesn't trust anyone else to hold her vision. So her growth has hit a ceiling. Only that ceiling isn't in her business. That ceiling is in her. That's why Deborah isn't here to just solve a problem tonight. She's here as your mirror. She's here as our mirror. Because if you can't trust others to expand your world, it might be because you haven't expanded who you believe you are yet. Keep it locked. Because tonight we're taking Deborah to the edge of her own consciousness and discovering what happens when you step beyond even that. Without further ado, if you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You just need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent Psychology and I tested in the real world, on real people, on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. Right now, you're on the Breakthrough Live, where we break down the science of healing so that you get your own breakthrough live. On tonight's show, we're dealing with Deborah. Deborah is going to set up our conversation for later on tonight. But we have to go meet her in the field. And truly, tonight's conversation is all about finding the limits of self, finding the limits of consciousness, exploring the edge we want to discover. Tonight's research laboratory question: is what happens when you seek the edge of consciousness. Our experiment tonight is going to require that we look directly. Tonight, we are going to be finding the limits of our own consciousness and the answers that come when we do. But before we can get there, we have to go to the field to meet Deborah. Let's get there now. Hi there. Excuse me. Were you the same lady I just talked to earlier?
No.
No. You know what? Can I show you how beautiful your mind is?
For what reason?
Well, actually, what we're doing is we're shooting a game show. I'm Dr. Shawn. I'm a therapist. Okay, and what we're doing is I'm showing people how powerful their mind is in under 7 minutes. If I don't serve you in 7 minutes, I pay you cash just for taking your time.
Okay, sure, why not?
Okay, beautiful. We can. You're gonna make us let us go home. Okay, so are we good here? The lighting. Okay, I'm gonna set this down. Okay, here we go. And what's your name?
Deborah.
Deborah. I'm Shawn.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Dr. Shawn is the name of the channel, okay? I'm here with Deborah, all right? And right now I have 7 minutes in order to serve her. I'm gonna start that clock in just a moment.
Okay.
Because in order for this game to work, I need to know one goal that is right now that you're pushing for, you're moving toward, but it's just outside of your reach. It's almost there. You're almost there. It's just outside of the reach, just outside the grasp. What would that goal be?
Ooh. I have this goal of getting 5 figures monthly in my business. Right now I'm at like 4.
Okay.
4, 5.
Okay, so right, you're saying you want the goal of getting 5 figures monthly in the business. Right now you're at 4. My question is, what is in the way? What's stopping you right now from hitting the 5? Oh, okay. So not knowing, like, so right now, is it your marketing, your ad spend, anything like that? Is it time?
It's more me, more of my own lack of accountability.
Oh, okay. So you like to watch the Netflix instead of getting to work? Is that what that is?
Maybe, possibly.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Okay. Well, no problem. So what we want to do is we want to look at that where you're saying there's an accountability feature, which perhaps I'm just getting a sense. Is there a love feature? Is this the business that you would love to be doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And yet there is a hesitancy in terms of when it's time to be accountable and get down to work and really push it to that next level. You're saying, okay, I'd rather just go do something different.
More of, I'd rather just do everything myself instead of do the correct thing and hire out and do things of that nature.
Okay.
So not being accountable in that way. I should have clarified that.
That's excellent. Okay, because there's a sense of ownership over what you're doing and perhaps a sense of maybe trust. Can you trust somebody else to really do what you need them to do without you having to double back and do it all over again?
Exactly.
Okay, so I understand. Let's start the clock right now. Here's what I need. Is it Deborah or Deborah?
It's Deborah. It's like Deborah. It's just a little extra. My mom got a little fancy.
Okay, well, she's talented. Okay, so here we go. Deborah, can you see this bottle?
Yes.
Excellent. What I want you to do is place an imaginary hand right in this space. Think of an imaginary hand like a big Mickey Mouse glove with a big white gloved hand, right? Let me know when you have it. It should be floating right here.
Okay.
Excellent. What I want you to do right now is to take and push that imaginary hand through this bottle all the way out to the back side. Let me know when you've done it.
Okay.
Excellent. Now bring it back to start.
Okay.
Wonderful. One more time. Back to the back. And back to the front. Let me know when you finish.
Okay.
Excellent. What I want you to do right now is take that same imaginary hand and push it through your own chest. In other words, you should see that imaginary hand hovering in front of your chest and moving out through your chest, through your body, and out the back side. Let me know when you've done it. Excellent. Now bring that imaginary hand back to the front.
Okay.
Wonderful. Now this time, speed up the hand. I want you to see that hand jumping from front to back at 1,000 miles per hour, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's going so fast. Let me know when you get it.
Okay.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Deborah, you were just able to place that imaginary hand through this bottle and through your own body. Let me ask you, is there anything in this world that you could not place that imaginary hand through?
At that point, no.
So basically you're telling me that there's no limits to the imaginary hand. It's essentially limitless, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so from the perspective of the imaginary hand, were you to get inside the mind of the imaginary hand, the entire world would look like it was one big, open, spacious, limitless reality.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
I could say that, yes.
Because the imaginary hand can go anywhere. It can go through the
Right.
bathroom. It can fly anywhere.
Right.
So my final question is, if the imaginary hand is limitless, as you say,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're its creator,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't that make you limitless too?
Okay, I see what you're saying there. I guess.
Right.
Sorta.
Okay.
Sorta, maybe. I can't do everything the imaginary hand can do, though.
But it's your imaginary hand. I didn't buy it for you. Your mom didn't buy it for you.
It has different qualities and elements.
Okay. But if it is in itself limitless and you are its creator, where could it get its limitless capacity from? It'd have to borrow it from somebody. And since I didn't give it to you.
Okay, then I can apply that to anything, if that's the case.
Okay, beautiful. So now here's my other question. If you were to, what would it be like to look at your challenges from this limitless perspective? When you think about the people who you just don't know if you can trust, or the people when it's time to get to work and you're like, let me just go do it myself. When you look at those challenges, if you were to see them from the limitless self, right? How do those challenges become different? Do you still need to cling on to the results if you know that you're bigger than anything that happens?
Repeat that one more time?
I mean, would you still need to cling on to the results? If you can see yourself, see your challenges from that limitless perspective, with the eyes of the limitless self, would you still look at your challenges the same? Would you still need to cling on to...
No.
You wouldn't. Okay. Excellent.
That's funny. Yeah, you wouldn't. You're right. You wouldn't.
Right. So the question I have is, if that's the case, how does seeing from this limitless self, how does it help you see yourself differently?
I guess it removes the ceiling that I've imagined for myself.
Ooh.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You see that?
I see that.
So my final question is, anytime that you're thinking about going back and you're thinking about maybe I'll take that task or maybe I can't trust that person, and you're trying to take on everything yourself, could you remind yourself of this limitless self?
Yes. Now that we've had this conversation.
Yes.
It's ingrained at this point.
Yes. Yes. Great. And that's our game. I've been telling folks the entire day to come back to this sense. When anything's happening, just come back to this sense of that limitless self, right? And you start to feel that, oh, wait, I can somehow relate to things differently than I could have just a moment ago. Right? And so that's everything that I have for you today. Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
Oh, Deborah, wait! I need to get your contact information because I want to show you when this comes out. Once it comes out, also
I'm sorry, I can't.
But once it comes out, I want you to be able to see it. So if I could just grab your email and your.
Yeah. Do you want me to just smile or?
Yes, you got a great smile.
Look at me first and then off into the distance.
Okay. Shout out to Deborah. Thank you for coming on the show. You see, folks, as I'm sitting here watching that back, I'm seeing that here's a woman who is dealing with one of the main challenges of my life. I meant what I said when I said that if you're like me, you were raised to not need anyone, right? To be so skilled, so qualified, so prepared that you don't really, you know what I'm saying? You're not trying to rely on anybody because underneath that is a fear of being left, a fear of being betrayed. And so Deborah has this sense that I know all too well of not being able to trust that other people will carry out the vision in the way that you want to see it come to fruition. And so I know that feeling. But if you watched, you got to see her fight against this idea, this notion of being limitless, only to recover and find out that, oh wait, it must be the case. And if I am limitless, then I can't be touched or harmed in the same way. That means that trust is not a problem. Trust does not need to be a problem because I don't need to be threatened by another person's absence. I don't need to keep my guard up in the hopes that I won't be let down. Oh, sure, you still put your protocols in place. You still put your procedure, you know what I'm saying? You still do what is operationally correct for your endeavor, but at the same time, your energy is now protected, returning back to this limitless expression. And so when we can get to see Deborah operate and we get to see her move from stranger on the street to all of a sudden in the end being this sort of smiling Buddha, we get to see that light come out of her. Hmm. For our purposes tonight, we're interested in understanding exactly what happened. That just by looking at a bottle and seeing through it and finding out that the limits to consciousness are difficult to discover, we want to find out, we want to reduplicate that same procedure tonight and then take it just a step further. So as we go into our laboratory, what we're interested in is what actually happens within when you seek the edge of consciousness. We got to see what happened with Deborah and the reason that Deborah is so important. The reason that she's serving as such a mirror is because I'm telling you, 2025 was a doozy for me. Oh, 2025 was a doozy for me. On one level, it was the one of the most precious, best years of my life. On another level, on paper, it was an awful year. On paper, that thing looked pretty bad. And it got me to a place, 2025, just last year, where for the first time, it was painfully obvious that I could no longer live my life in such a way as to just be dependent on my own powers, my own skills, my own abilities. It got to the point where I was like, it I could no longer operate my life believing that I had all of the right answers, believing that I had all of the right skills, even though my skill set is And it took so many years trying to develop my capacities for perseverance, for discipline, for courage, for commitment, for persuasion, for always being able to take care of myself. But that 2025 boy, it was as if all of the skills that God had given me, God also said, listen, you will not use a single one of these skills for your own interest. You will only use your skills for my interests. You will only use your abilities for my interests. Dude, that meant letting go of businesses. That meant letting go of investment income. That meant letting go of a lot of things and not being able to get them back because I could no longer do something in order to get something. I could no longer. So, in other words, the idea of doing a thing in order to get money, I couldn't do it. Like, could not do it. And so at that point, it's like, okay, well, what happens? What do you do when you spent your entire, 20s and 30s? Well, I would say up to 20 or up to 30 rather, getting all of the skills so that you would be set, that you would be good. Dude, I remember I remember getting my PhD, finding out that the university wasn't the place that I thought it was. So I was like, look, let me go into tech sales. Let me go into sales. I go into sales in Austin, Texas, and when I'm going in for the interviews, nobody wanted to hire me because they thought I was overeducated. I had the PhD, you know what I'm saying, and a couple master's degrees. They were like, we don't really know what you're up to, but you gotta get up out of here with all that. So I was like, yo, I need to learn this skill set. If I can learn how to sell, then I'll always be able to eat. I'll always be able to make my 200, 300, 400 grand, whatever it is. University ain't gonna do that unless you know what I'm saying. Like you would have, it takes a while to get to that. But I was like, look, man, let me hit that sales floor though. So watch this. I go to Indeed. If you ever see the Austin skyline, you can see Indeed is like one of the main buildings in the city. So I'm up in the top floor and I'm getting interviewed, and they're like, what are you doing here though? And I was like, yeah, man, one of my buddies, he was an entrepreneur. He's doing like $5 million doing wholesale real estate, but he learned how to sell here. So I wanted to kind of come and just follow in his footsteps. Now I'm sitting here saying that to an interviewer at a corporation. I'm not knowing that that's not what they're trying to hear. They're trying to hear, hey, you want to be here for the long term. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to basically, what I'm saying, get the skills and then go start a business. Bro, they did not want to hear that. And like, what I'm saying, they didn't want to hear it. So they were like, hey, get up out of here. And so I leave and I thought it was a test. I was like, oh, this must be my first sales test. I know. Let me just call them back and show them I'm persistent. So I get home and I call each one of the sales managers 42 times, 120 times a piece, or 120 times total. 42 times I leave voice messages. I'm like, hey, missed your call. They didn't call me. Missed your call. Wanted to make sure, I was uh, responsive to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to be work at Indeed. I'm ready to get it done. But and I sent that message 42 times, and different variations of that same kind of message. Hey, I'm ready for training. Hey, just want to make sure you have the best phone number possible. You know what I'm saying? You guys still got my address on file? Tommy, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here doing all of this. Bro, they was not trying to hear. They ended up giving me a call back. They had one of the HR managers or something. She called me and she was like, look, we see that you called 120 times. At this time, please do not reach back out to our sales manager. You are barred from being, you know what I'm saying? Barred from Indeed. Don't come back. We don't want to see you no more. All that. I was like, oh boy. I said, I guess that wasn't a test. But the idea was still that if if I am eventually going to need to be, I knew I was going to build an organization of some sort, but I didn't know exactly what at that time. So I was like, I not only do I need these sales skills in order to actually like do that thing, but I also want to know that like I can just eat forever. You dig what I'm saying? And so once Indeed basically said no, I was like, oh man, is this the end of my you know what I'm saying? Am I gonna have to like find am I gonna have to go back to the university and teach for 60 or $70,000 a year? And so what ended up happening was I ended up getting a call from a different company. As a matter of fact, I think I think I started sending emails 'cause I didn't want to put in applications. I felt like applications were for losers. So I was like, listen, I'm about to just go and direct message the sales managers. You dig? I'm about to just go straight to them. And one ended up picking up at a different organization. The organization was called Signpost. And we go through it, we get to talking. I'm like, yeah, you guys need me on the team. And I had learned from my last experience at Indeed to take all the degrees off my resume. So I took everything off, except for the bachelor's. I left that on. But I took everything else off and was hired. One of the best opportunities because in that job, I started learning exactly what persuasion is, what gets somebody to say yes, what gets somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like what does the human mind have to go through in order to arrive at a, oh yeah, I'm ready to do this deal. And we would do these things called one-on-ones in the sales floor. So you would be on the sales floor, you're doing 100 calls, whatever it is a day, and then if you're hitting your quotas, then you cool. If you're not, obviously they fire you. So my manager calls me in one day for a one-on-one, and we're looking over this tape and my of a sales call that I had, and it was the single day that I realized that, oh wow, I can actually, like, I understand this process. I understand how this goes, and I can duplicate it at any point in time. It doesn't matter where it happens. The beauty of this company was is that all they did was give you a phone, and they were like, "Go make us money." And if you don't, you leave. You know what I'm saying? And so it was what's called full cycle sales, which is where you find the lead. You know what I'm saying? Like most sales organizations of a certain size, they have what's called BDRs or SDRs, sales development reps, business development reps. These people tee up the conversation for the closers. The closers come through and shut it down. That's the idea. In this company, it was totally different. It was you are going to find your own leads and you are also going to close them. And then you're going to find some more and do the same thing over and over and over again. And so by the time I got my shot, I was so ready. I'm talking 12-hour days, study on the weekend, learning from the book, systematizing all the whole thing, just to understand what's actually happening. Because being an academic is so different than being in sales. Like you're in a library a lot of times. Yeah, you might be teaching, but it's a different, you know what I'm saying? It's almost a different personality that you click into. And so we're listening to this phone call, and the sales manager is like, look, this right here is it. He was like, you're killing them. I think within the first 3 months, I started breaking 10-year records for that company. Started understanding exactly what it is. And I remember on that day, my sales manager's name was Eric. Eric was like, look, you got this. You understand how this goes. I was like, listen, is this the process? Is this, as you listen to this call, are these the steps? Is this the system? He was like, yep, that's it. And that system works no matter what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so I left the office that day feeling like, yo, I am never going to, like, we were already doing like 50K months and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were already like stacking up what's called MRR, monthly recurring revenue. We were already stacking that up. Like, I was already, stacking that up. But it didn't occur to me. Like, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I'll never starve again. Now I'm there. That sales job gave me time, attention, a skill set, so that by the time I got into the blockchain stuff, it was just, yeah, a little bit of luck. And then after that, I was done. After that, it was over. I didn't go back to work again. But the beauty is that I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I was able to teach myself this skill set. And even though I had great teachers and all of that, you know what I'm saying? But it felt like, I was able to put myself into a position that I could learn this skill set. It was still kind of relying on my own power. And so there just came a point in, after retiring at 30, there came a point around 2023 when I had this accident with these drugs, which is a whole other story for another time. But afterwards, I could no longer see the world the same way. These psychoactive compounds, like I ended up by mistake taking some high doses of THC and end up having this profound spiritual deepening inside of a psychotic experience. So by the time I came back out, I was like, oh shoot, I can't. I just saw the face of God. I can't go back to how I was before. I can't move the same. I can't behave the same. I can't look at information the same. Not and still maintain my sanity. Like can't do it. And so there came a point where it wasn't looking. It wasn't looking at all. It was looking pretty dark in the sense of not knowing how I would continue to, my entire retirement was based off of understanding what property, what IP was going to pop next, what technology was going to pop next. And so there comes a point in time when I just couldn't follow up. I couldn't look at it again. And it was in that moment that, as I'm seeing everything kind of falling apart, income streams that I used to rely on gone, it's in that moment that God starts talking to me. And when I say God, I'm not talking about a guy in the sky. I'm talking about fundamental reality. I'm talking about the core essence of deep reality. I'm saying that you could say original nature. You could just say your own better intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But I'm talking about that which is universal and operates through each of us. I still personify in a way because that's familiar to people, and so it's helpful just for ease of communication. So, but God starts saying to me like, look, all these skills that you have, this ability to go and, I mean, you could start from zero and be right back at where you were in 6 months, 12 months. But you'll never do that again. You'll never use your abilities, be it for selling, for teaching, for research, for speaking, for any sort of invest for business. Not you will not use any of these skill sets for any reason other than mine. That's a cold one because, like, then what do you do? What do you do when you must have other people do things for you? When you must have other people, you now you must rely on somebody. I must rely on people. I must. My own efforts, my own skill sets are no longer enough. My own energy no longer enough. The main reason is because I cannot do things in order to get things. It'll shut my nervous system off. It'll just, you know what I'm saying? There's no way. There's no way. So the way that most humans live in terms of, okay, well, we're about to get at the money, we're about to go do this, but that, I know exactly what you're trying to do. Intellectually, but to follow you, I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. And so that was the most profound change of my 30s. And for about a year there, oh, it wasn't looking at all. Oh, it was looking bad. Because on one level, I can't respond in the old pattern way. So I can't do what's necessary in order to create my levels of comfort that I'm used to. You dig what I'm saying? Not that I moved or anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm still in the same, you know what I'm saying? Everything was interesting is that everything stayed the same. I guess that's what's interesting is that everything stayed the same, but not because of me. You dig what I'm saying? It was like, Felicity's in the chat. Felicity came through in a major way, and other people just came through in a major way. It was like, interestingly enough, money started coming through in an interesting way more than I would have made on a sales floor. You dig what I'm saying? Like it starts, so it's like okay, slowly, it was like the universe started working for me. Slowly, about 18 months to slowly get to a place where it was like, oh wait, yeah, this is like I'm back again. You dig what I'm saying? Like but not in the same way. I'm still not. I still can't do things in order to get things. But no one ever said that it was a problem when gifts are given. And I couldn't find the gifts if I was still relying on my own skill set, if I was still relying on my own perception of how things ought to be. This unusual funds coming through. People that I would never ask to to sort of hold and take care of me, like showed up to do that. Felicity, the main one. And Felicity's my wife for anybody who's new here. But like, again, if you've been taught your entire life not to need anyone, and then you find yourself in a situation where your personal development assets are frozen, my skill sets, the ability to go out and knock deals down, the ability to go and do like still retain all of that. I still have all of those abilities. I just cannot use them for any benefit other than God's. Oh, it was a conundrum. Oh, it was a conundrum because we had just had a baby. Oh, so a situation I was preparing my whole life not to be in, I found myself in. Oh, damn. A situation I had prepared my whole life not to be in, I found myself in. But only this time, there's nothing I can do based on my own power to correct the situation. You dig what I'm saying? Only this time, there was nothing, you could say, okay, well, you could try and just force yourself to do it, bro. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. That other life, that other version of who I was is gone. Not in the sense that I don't have that skills. The skill sets are still there, but they can only be deployed on behalf of the divine. That's interesting. They can only be deployed on behalf of the divine. And so as I'm still working on projects, I'm still doing like, you know what I'm saying? Like the God light is still leading me into certain types of activities. So I'm still filming. I'm still doing, you know what I'm saying? We're still doing all of that. Suddenly, somehow, when money was available or required, it just kind of showed up. It would just be something, you know what I'm saying? The bank being like, hey, here, take this. You get something, you know what I'm saying? And then eventually it got to a place where it was like, okay, you're getting this new flood of resources. It was the lowest amount of anxiety I ever experienced over a period of 18 months for a situation that was so dire. I mean, we're talking worst case scenario. We're talking the worst case situation going down, and there was this surrender. It was as if life itself was asking me to surrender at the deepest levels, which also meant that if death was to come, then death just would have came. I had to starve to death, like whatever. It also meant that, but it was going all in, this full commitment to the totality of reality, this thing that we call supreme reality, this thing that we call consciousness or love or God. It was the complete commitment to this force. And it wasn't like you can get on the phone and talk to the homies. When God asks people to surrender, people say, "Oh yeah, I'll surrender when it's convenient. I'll surrender when everything's going all right. I'll surrender. I'll show up for you, God, if you show up for me." You dig what I'm saying? That it becomes that kind of transactional relationship with nature itself. I remember telling Felicity, I was like, "Listen, as the man who has sworn to protect and provide for you, I am telling you this. I will let you die before I forsake God." One of the most difficult conversations of my life. Because I think that we get into these relationships and we start to we start to seek our own comfort. And when things are going well and wonderful, you know what I'm saying? Like our lady's our champion. But the moment that things start to go another kind of way, we start to respond with the fear-based activity. The situation was avoidable. But the problem was that I could not perceive reality in the same way. So I couldn't do the small 10 minutes or 20 minutes of work required. I couldn't. Imagine it only takes you 10 minutes out the year to fund the entire year, and you can't do it. That would be doing things to get things. It's tough. That was tough. That was tough. And yet, and yet, an entire never before seen project, a new series, Countdown to Breakthrough, that came out that year. And that series became like this fundamental, see, like I'm like, oh, okay, I could do this for the rest of my life. Like this is cool. I like this. And nothing changed externally. Like nothing, like everything was still the same. You still get the same, everything's still the same. And then on top of that, the funds that I couldn't take the 10 minutes for came anyway. It came anyway. Not to say that that's required or necessary or whatever. I mean, I'm to this day still ready to do it, to go wrap up life in the woods or under a bridge. Like I could care less. But the idea is that what's required was given. But I would have never been able to see that if I were relying on my own power. Do you see what I'm saying? That there are levels to this. I think there's the level of trust. Okay, well, I got to trust somebody. What the boy was talking about, I got to trust somebody in order to handle a certain situation. But I had to go back to almost a childlike trust. A childlike trust that, hey, look, if today's the day where we don't get to eat, or today's the day that they cut the lights out, or today's the day that whatever, it's been fun. You know what I'm saying? Like I over that year there was just this divorce, this drawing nearer to God, but a divorce from needing to fight to live. Like I that went away completely. It was as if, look, if today's the day, then we smooth. If it's gotta be today, then it's today. There was no sweat and anxiety. I mean, it certainly had some moments. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna hold you, but there wasn't a consistent. It was still the best. Like Felicity, what would you say? Like, that shit was still like the best year of my life, but it was like the best worst year ever. I've never had a year like that before. The best worst year. I'm saying the best worst year. That's maybe not the. I say it was like yes. Okay, that's a good way to say it. The best worst year. It was the best in terms of being able to see that, oh wow, this love capacity, this God light, if it is here with me now, it'll be with me when I transition, and I'm okay whenever that moment is. Which means what? That at this point, the idea of somebody coming in, taking over your mind, taking over my mind and trying to get me to go and do whatever, even if somebody steals from you, if somebody does, like it does, my trust is not in a system or in a person or even my own capacities. There's like a greater trust in fundamental reality itself. It's not suicidal, but it's just in the sense of living is the same as what we call the process of life, the process of birth and the process of death are equally, though I may have my preference, my momentary sort of, oh yeah, you kind of clinging more to one than the other, but at the end of the day, it's like as long as I've released control, as long as my trust is in fundamental reality. The other way of saying that, as long as my trust is in God, I'm cool. So I got to see that at a super deep level. What I had lost was restored in a different way. But what I had gained, that depth, that deepening, now I get to see myself be the person that is faced with the worst situation that I spent years, decades looking to avoid and finding that, oh no, see, I can trust God there too. Dude, this was huge. This was huge. Being able to trust God there too, this was huge. So I know that feeling of feeling like you spent so many years trying to develop yourself, trying to turn yourself into something that is infallible, something that is always going to be able to make a way. And then building up the skill sets, the track record, and the capacities to be that dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or to be that one. What I never saw coming was that God would come through and say, skilled you are, but now you can only be skilled for my sake. Now you can only use your skills for my sake. Mm, mm. Man, that was the one. And so tonight, as we're talking about releasing control, while simultaneously talking about finding the edge of reality, I can release control when I know what reality is. What am I releasing control into? You know what I'm saying? What happens when I release that control? So tonight's lab experiment is designed for us to be able to explore the limits of consciousness. When I say God, when I say consciousness, when I say love, when I say supreme reality, deep reality, the fabric of reality, I'm talking about the exact same thing. And so tonight's question, the question that we're going to explore in our laboratory, has to do with finding the limits, finding the edge. What happens when you seek the edge of consciousness? I want to know what happens energetically, what happens internally. The reason is because if we do this right, the question itself points us to a realm beyond our limited personal self. And that place was the place where I had to be, the place where Deborah got a glimpse of, but the place that I had to live in. And an exercise like tonight, if done correctly, has the ability to make it so that we never lose track of what's real. Because in a situation where we're trying to be the ones to do everything on our own, there is a subtle sense of being in a reality where we are fragile, limited, and in constant need of protection. In that kind of reality, when you perceive reality at that level, yeah, it makes sense that you can't trust somebody else. It makes sense. But were we to expand our perception tonight, I wonder if we could come to a new truth, not something that I'm giving you. I just share a story. I just show you Deborah. I show you a mirror. But I'm talking about a truer sense, a real perception, a real expansion of perception, that we might discover the nature of trust itself. So if you're ready, let's get to it. My bad, folks. I definitely see you up in the chat. Okay, Felicity is definitely in the chat. Twins, I see you in the chat. You know what I'm saying? My bad. I just got into storytelling mode, and so you know what I'm saying. Twins saying, I think that's why we now call it a celebration of life and not death, because it's simultaneously we've lived, died, and created all at once. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, let me get my joint. Fuzzy saying not missed your call. Okay, I'm all super late to the chat. Uh 20, okay, so Twin saying 2025 was a doozy for me as well, but I know it didn't knock me down because I emailed you the first of the year in 2026 saying this was my year. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know, must be something in the water. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the 2025 was one of them years, but bro, I'm telling you, it was also an amazing year. Like as 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 bad as it was on paper, it was just this other unlock, this other thing that it was like, oh man, okay, you can't teach this. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too many nights of having to sit with pain, of sitting with the fact that you can no longer rely on your own skill sets, rely on your own knowledge, your own experience, your own power. Even though you able-bodied, you got there is no excuse. Like, you know what I'm saying? You still it's all of the things. You're cognitively, you know what I'm saying, functional, all of that stuff. It's just that there is a difference in perception to the point where I can no longer access the reality that somebody who's, as most people, frankly, You know what I'm saying? Like it's the kind of thing, I think I've said it as clearly as I can. It's the kind of thing that like everybody just has that at some point, either this lifetime or another, you will have that point where you just go. And once this little line gets crossed, there's no going, you can't go back. Like you cannot turn a baby back into sperm and egg. Like once it's crossed a certain threshold, it doesn't you can't undo it. You can't go back, which means that we must expand. And that's what tonight's lab question is about. Seeking the very edge of reality itself. Seeking the edge of reality itself. We're about to head into the laboratory and handle this question with our conscious transformation technologies for the evening. Our conscious transformation technology inside of our conscious transformation laboratory. That's where we're going. Jovan, what's goody? Oh, Jovan up in his mug. Okay. Jovan says, Dr. Shawn Smith, what is your current relationship to money? Okay, very good question. Very good question. Very good question. Some years ago, I made a video called You Do Not Have a Money Problem. And in that video, I'm just snapping on the nature of abundance. My perspective is still that. That is still my perspective. It's just that now I even understand it at a deeper level. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, oh damn, you really don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? It is not. We say, okay, what's your relationship to money? I think of it as energy. I think of it as something that like a tool set, like something that we can use as a tool in order to accomplish an operationalized task. But because it's a tool set, I know that there are other tools too, which means that money becomes but one of the tools. In other words, we could actually have a world where you don't necessarily need that tool. You would just use a different one. So what I'm saying is that I would never again look at money as if money is the freedom. I won't even look as if money itself can purchase freedom. As somebody who retired at 30, like you know what I'm saying? Like I won't even look at it like that because freedom itself is a decision. And so it's like, okay, well, we have this tool called money. And at this point, Jovan, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking this. This is the crux of the conversation. What I saw when I was in that mode, 2025, I saw that money is just people. The value of money is in the people. You dig what I'm saying? It's in human beings. We are looking to, in all cases, get money to somebody in order to do something for us. That's how the tool works. The tool of money works by we give it to somebody and they go build us a house. They go cook us food. They go do, you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. And so what I saw was that if I can just take care of the people, remember, I'm a person who in my past as a personality likes to do a lot of training and discipline and you know what I'm saying and all the things in order to make myself not have to need anybody. But in that situation where everything collapses, as one started to see that money is a tool that helps us to give value to strangers, people who wouldn't otherwise know us. But in a situation where I'm depending on somebody, however temporary or however long, I saw that, wait, money is just about people. Let me see if I can make this as clear as possible. Which means that if I can just take care of people, money can be it can be a part of the environment, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It can be, you know what I'm saying? Like some like literally, I do not spend I haven't spent any money in like I don't spend I don't buy stuff. I take care of the people. It's I can get money, but I'll just give it to people who will take care of everything else. You dig what I'm saying? Like I don't I'm it's not that I have a it's not even there's no animosity or energy toward it. And like you know what I'm saying? I don't have an opinion about the tool itself. My deepening was about attention to the people. If I can just take care of my star players, that's a word I say, a phrase I use often now. I just want to be able to take care of my star players. If I can just take care of my star players, I'll take care of everything else, right? If I can just take care of this woman, the woman will take care of everything else. You dig? If I can just support this baby, the baby will take care of everything the baby needs to take care. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really like that. If I can just my attention now goes into the people. What do these people need in order to be supported? What is love directing me to do on behalf of these people? Because once I find that a person's skill sets or a person gets access to new technology or a person does something new, they get a new capability added unto them, they now become more valuable. They're now able to do more work and replenish money at a faster clip. Like it was really like, oh, let me just take care of the people. The people will go and they'll multiply the money. They will go and do that. And so I know it seems like an obvious, like, man, I'll give everybody, but I'm talking at a different type of, in other words, Jovan, like this past year to show me that like my life does not belong to me in that way anymore. You dig what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't belong to me like that. So I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I don't spend anything. If I need something, I make a phone call and the people do. You dig what I'm saying? Like I don't I don't even really deal with it. I want to keep my focus on the main thing. I can't, this is not a recommendation for anybody else. I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying how you got to do it, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that based off of where I was, just 12 months ago, like I saw that money made itself available when it was most required. So there's no, it's like it's a wonderful thing for money to be a part of the environment, to be a tool set that helps you accomplish a goal or task. But I just don't do things in order to get things. Like I don't spend my life and activities, time that I could be devoting to love and to God in order to go chase a bag. That's just not gonna happen. Like I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. It's not that I'd rather die, it's that would be the consequence. I could not live and do that. And so it's like, okay, well, what are you saying? Like, how do you live? How do you go forward? I don't like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the part. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that somehow when funds were required, they came. If they go again, I'm gonna be the exact same in the sense of my reliance must be on the most high. You dig what I'm saying? It must be on that core depth. This should sound crazy. I cannot recommend none of this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can't say that you should go do. I couldn't do it. But just know that I also could not go and try and be what other humans are talking about. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I've tried to, you know what I'm saying, like, but not really. You know what I'm saying? I've tried to entertain the thought, but many a times I tried to entertain the thought, but it eventually stalls out, and eventually I'm like, oh yeah, wait, there's only this love thing. If love is indeed the totality of reality, and it is a force that is guiding our steps, were we to surrender to it, then if it leads me to the grave, then that's where I need to be, champ. Like there is no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna do this either for real or not at all. Like there is no in between. I don't know if I'm getting at your question, Jovan, but I'm hoping that I am. The notion that money itself is a tool, if I can summarize, the notion that money itself is a tool, that its real value is in the way that it unlocks people. And therefore, if I am following love and love directs me to the people to support my star players so that they reach their highest level, then everything that needs to be added unto me will be added unto me. But if I try and chase the cash and hope to get everything in place, even if it only takes me 10 minutes out the year to make sure my entire lifestyle is funded, that itself, if it is not love directed, is a betrayal. And I won't be able to do it. So getting money is perfectly acceptable and fine as long as it's love directed for myself. So as long as it's love directed, as long as it's actually love saying, go and do this activity, and yes, this activity yields these types of financial returns, then we all cool in the game. The problem is when I'm chasing money out of fear of not being able to survive. That's a different thing. And at that point, that's the part where you just choose death. You dig what I'm saying? I hope that's clear to you because I've seen what happens. Like the love thing, I know for sure that there's no escaping it. Not even death is going to separate you from love. You dig what I'm saying? So, which means that if love is the only thing that I want, then whether I'm walking around in this body or not, I get it. I'm what else is there, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm having a hard time understanding anything else, especially when I'm clear. That's it. There can still be moments of distraction. There can still be moments where I'm like, oh shoot, you know what I'm saying? We should. What if we did this? What if we moved some cash? Like, you know what I'm saying? The old habits are still they still pop up. Um, but now it's just different. And I think that I don't approach. I think about people first. I think about my star players first. I think about people first. And so if I can use money in order to enhance people, wonderful. But I would use AI in order to enhance people. I would use tools in order to enhance people. Like whatever I can do in order to give somebody a new unlock for themselves. That's infinitely more valuable than anything else. Are you comfortable being a hunter gatherer? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you cool? Like, I'm telling you, that was like one of my thoughts. Like, often I was like, yo, what if I have to be a hunter gatherer? I ain't living under no bridge. Those kind of smell. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if I have to be a hunter gatherer? Then you hunt and you gather. You dig what I'm saying? But you're gonna do it in love. You feel me? Like, again. If you are not feeling me on this, Understood. Okay, understood. I get you. I get you. I get you. If you don't even believe me on this, I get that too. I'm just saying that, to surrender unto this and to recognize that perhaps there's a greater trust beyond the trust that we place in our own skills and our own abilities and our own self-belief. Perhaps there's a greater trust that whatever brought me here is also going to take me home. In the words of Rumi, Persian poet. Jovan, does that answer your question? Jovan already went home. Like Jovan was like, "Hey man, I had to. Something else was on, bro. I had to go." I hope y'all are still staying tuned, bro. This is insane. Like, yeah. Jovan, does that answer your question, champ? Like, I'm just wondering. Before we jump into tonight's lab experiment, where we are seeking the edge of consciousness itself, just to see what we find, just to see if there's a source of trust that is somehow beyond personal self that we believed we were. Just to maybe put an end on a bow on this story, like it doesn't matter how much, like it doesn't matter what your situation is, how wealthy you are, whatever the case. It doesn't like everything can shift in a moment, champ. You just need to be knowing that. People gonna be like, oh well, not if I manifest the right way or whatever. If I get my mindset in the thing, it's like no, 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 no. I don't think you understand. You are not going to manifest your way out of pain in perpetuity. The manifesting capacity is your ability to have life throw whatever it is going to throw at you, and you continue going in the direction of God. That is the mark of the ultimate manifester. People out here thinking, oh man, if I can just do this, then I'll be able to avoid the vicissitudes of life. Bro, stop that. That misses the point. No, 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 no. This rhythm is still gonna move. If it's good today, don't worry, it's about to get crazy. If it's crazy today, don't worry, it's about to get great. You dig what I'm saying? This is about to continue. The question is, will you continue? Ever faithful, ever loving, in your highest frequency, at the base and at the bottom of your worst year, can you still be having your best year? That's the difference. I wish I could tell you that, man. Yeah, it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? Once you learn how to do this, that, and the third, it's all cool. It's all to the good. I'll let somebody else tell you that. I don't know nothing about that. All I can tell you is this. Amid the vicissitudes of life, your capacity to continue, ever faithful, ever loving, ever present, reflecting God back to God, regardless of what's going on. This is supreme. This is supreme. So are we supposed to get to a laboratory situation tonight? I kind of feel like we already just did the whole show. But again, we're asking ourselves the question, what happens when we seek the edge of consciousness? For me tonight, if I can just connect to the reason that I wanted to research this question, The reason I wanted to bring it into our lab today is because I know that everybody's going to have this moment at your level, whatever level that is. Everybody's going to have this moment when surrender unto something greater than yourself is your only option. Regardless of what other people are telling you, when surrender unto this greater fabric of existence, you say surrender unto God is going to be your only option. Everybody's going to have this moment. I was just talking with a an in-law about 2025 and about their experience. They didn't know nothing about what I was talking about, but you know what I'm saying, like their experience. And this woman was like, being in this she was like in a school program, like a Christian divinity school, a theology school. She's like, being in this program, it just showed me that I can't rely on my own powers. I must rely on God's power. And she was saying it in a Christian sense. And it just triggered something in me to be like, yo, that seems like, I wasn't telling her this, but I was like, yeah, my whole year was like that, like that's what a way to say that. This woman was well into her 60s. And this was just this past weekend, you know what I'm saying? So, or was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was just this past weekend, which means that the vicissitudes, the change, the impermanence, the fluctuations, the ups and downs of life, just when we think we got it all together, champ, it starts to shift. It starts to shift. So if we can come to the edge, if we can seek the edge of consciousness, that's the other way of saying, can we seek the edge of reality itself? The other way of saying that is, can we seek the edge of who I am? Can we seek the edge of myself? Can we find the edge of myself? And I want to know the answer to that because I want to know not just what the answer is, but what happens when we seek that edge. What is it that we discover? And how does that discovery transform our conception of who we are? So we need to get to the lab. We need to get to the lab. At this time, we're going into the conscious transformation laboratory. This is a time for you to find a chair, or you may stand, or you may lie flat on your back. But as you do, I want you to keep your spine as straight as possible, as straight as is naturally possible. To do this, if you are sitting in a chair, you can imagine a string coming from the top of the ceiling and attaching into the crown of your head. That string is simply holding your body up through the crown of your head. The entire weight of your body is completely relaxed. And you are hanging simply by the string attached to the top of your head. If you are standing, you may do the same. See the string attached to the top of your head. Let it tuck your hips underneath you. Let it straighten your spine. And just imagine that you're hanging from this string that's attached to the ceiling and the top of your head. If you're laying down flat on your back with your head slightly tilted upward. This posture will allow for clean energy flow, clean circulation, and support concentration. At this time, take a deep breath in with me. Inhale. Exhale. Take a deep breath in. Inhale. Exhale. You may close your eyes. And as you do, become aware of the darkness behind your eyes. As you do, ask yourself the question, am I aware? See that the answer is yes. As you are aware of the darkness behind your eyes, imagine that the darkness behind your eyes isn't just the darkness of your own eyelids, but instead is a window looking out into an infinite, dark universe. The darkness behind your eyes is just like the darkness you would see were you in a spaceship staring out into the cosmos. at this time. Imagine you have an imaginary hand that you can push deep, deep, deep into the darkness that lays before you. Push that imaginary hand out into the darkness that you see before you now. Push the imaginary hand further out into the darkness that you see before you. Make this darkness infinite and stretch your imaginary hand deep, deep out into infinity itself. Push your imaginary hand deep into the darkness you see before you and see that it is endless. Notice that you can travel with this imaginary hand deep into the darkness that lays before you. See if you can find an edge. See if you can find a barrier, a place where your imaginary hand can no longer travel. See if you can find a limit to the darkness that you see before you. Feel this darkness stretching all the way to infinity all around you. No matter how far your imaginary hand travels, There is always more for it to explore. Notice how the imaginary hand never finds an edge, never finds a border or a wall it cannot cross. Your imaginary hand could continue exploring this deep darkness forever. Feel into the darkness as far as you can now. This darkness that lays before you is all around you. You can explore it in any direction you like. Do so now. What do you notice? What happens when you seek the edge of this darkness, which is your own consciousness? Who even are you amid this darkness, amid this consciousness? Take one deep breath in with me. Inhale. Exhale. Another deep breath in with me. Inhale. Exhale. At this time, return back to the space behind your eyes, staring into the darkness behind your eyelids. And ask yourself, am I aware? And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Hmm. Folks, I'm interested in knowing what your experience was like. For me, put your experience in the chat. I definitely want to hear this because as we're making sense of tonight, what I found as I went through that technology during our meditation tonight, I found that I didn't find any edges. There were no limits, But then something strange happened in the sense that it was like let's get the breakthrough board out actually. Let's get the breakthrough board. Hmm. Okay. So I got the breakthrough board and tonight we need to talk about the principle, the pattern, and the path. I like to teach from principle because if I understand the principle of a thing, then I can find my own path forward regardless of whatever else I know. And so tonight I want to find the principle here. What's the principle? Twin is saying my experience was weird. It was saying as I'm seeking the edge, it's seeking me. Interesting. Interesting. So you were saying as you're seeking the edge, it's seeking you. Interesting. Interesting. Say more. Say more. Let that process, let that sit and kind of allow it to speak to you. I think there's something really deep there. I want to know more. I want to know more. For me, it was like this, Chief. Like, let me see if I can hit this up for you. I usually like to draw these first, but we're about to get to a principle somewhere, okay? It's just that for me, I started seeing it felt like I was still it was like I could feel this infinity. I could feel this depth, this infinite darkness. And darkness happens to be a metaphor. If you've ever read the Tao Te Ching, literally the first chapter talks about, darkness within darkness. Darkness returning to darkness is like the true source of God. What they're saying is that were you to remove everything from consciousness, were you to close your eyes and just kind of remove everything, you would be sort of floating in this infinite abyss. We call it darkness, but you could call it whatever. It's just the fact that it is dark because you're not seeing any light. And out of that abyss comes all of creation, comes all of existence. You dig what I'm saying? This is the idea that the Taoists were talking about. And it's also what we're talking about here. So it was as if I was here talking into a microphone and doing do you know what I'm saying? Doing the whole thing. But as in those spaces in between, I'm seeing the darkness behind the eyes, but then I'm feeling this massive, like, I'm feeling like this massive infinite space. And I was like a little, this is probably too big for how I was feeling. I was like this little, this little dot right here that y'all seeing, that was me. It felt like this was the physical body, but the darkness was me. If you could imagine that, where it was like the physical body started to feel like it was just a tiny, tiny grain of sand, and the rest of this darkness, the rest of this infinite, what is often called the void. You might have heard of void meditations and that sort of thing, that where the rest of the void, the rest of that darkness, this infinity became myself. This not in the sense that it became myself, but I was actually the darkness, and this physical body was just a temporary nucleus at the moment. It was like it was as if the entire as if I was the reality, but this body was just one of the lingering manifestations of the moment. That's probably the best way that I can describe the feeling. That's like the best way I can describe the feeling. And so if you're saying, okay, well, what's the principle of the night though? Let's stare at this thing until it comes to me. You say, what's the principle of the night though? Okay, I get that there was this massive infinite feeling. Again, our question tonight is what happens when you seek the edge of consciousness? Ah, right, right, right. You find that you are the edge. We could call it the edgeless edge, you know what I'm saying? But this is written all around this darkness that I felt like I was. This is all around the board. This is literally filling the edges of the board right here. And this was myself. What happens when you seek the edge of consciousness? You discover that you are the edge. I discovered that I was the edge. Let's write that. I'm giving y'all the visual. Let's write that now. Mm. If I put this. Hmm. You are the edge. What happens when you seek the edge of consciousness? You discover that you are the edge. That you can never find that barrier. You can never find that border any more than you can see your own eyes without a mirror. Any more than you can see your own face without a mirror. You see, infinity is its own edge. Let me see if I can put that in clear terms for you. We can say that infinity is its own edge. So there's not another one to seek, which by its definition means dimensionless, both ever vast and also ever present. In other words, ever expansive, but also just here, right now. In reality, it could not be quantified by space time. You could not measure infinity in space time. So we could say it's just ever present. Yet, because we are so habituated in defining ourselves by our personal bodies, our personal experiences, our personal physical structure, because we are so habituated in defining ourselves by these limits, we see that both the body and the space that the body is in are both one, and therefore our perception naturally begins to expand, reaching out, including all of ourselves as a result. We'll come back to what this means, but the principle is that you are the edge. Because infinity is its own edge, its own container. So if I understand that principle that you are the edge, that infinity is its own edge, and I am that, that gets that helps me get at the nature of trust differently. Because do I need to trust another person or do I need to trust the infinity that is in them, which is also in me and is me? You dig what I'm saying? Do I need to trust that person or do I need to trust the God in them? This is the big epiphany. And so, okay, we're talking about the principle, but what's the pattern? Why do we get into trouble in the first place? I like understanding a pattern behind phenomenon because if I can understand the pattern behind a thing, then I can interrupt that pattern, change that pattern, expand that pattern, minimize that pattern, or otherwise abandon that pattern if it's not helpful. So I like understanding the pattern behind a thing. And the pattern that we're talking about is what's the pattern behind this behavior? Why do we get into this kind of trouble in the first place? And now I have to look. We understand that the principle is that you are the edge because infinity is its own edge, it is its own container. Well, why do we even need to be reminded of that? What's the pattern behind our self imposed limits? Mm. Ooh, okay. I'm figuring out how to articulate that. Mm, okay. Okay. So the pattern, the reason that we get into trouble in the first place is because our grand feeling that we are, in fact, infinite gets jumbled or mixed together with personal identity experience. What I'm saying is that every feeling that we are having at this current moment is being produced by that infinite source. But when we self-contain it to a body that happens to exist in space, we forget to include the space as also us. If we would remember that the space is also us, our very conception of self would change. It doesn't mean that that would be the end of emotions or the end of feeling or the end of any more than the depth of an ocean means the end of waves on the surface. Like all of that stuff still stays. But when infinity gets jumbled together with personal identity experience, we start thinking that the emotions we are currently experiencing are happening on behalf of a tiny self and lose sight of the fact that they are happening, the emotions that we're experiencing, the thoughts that we're experiencing, including the thoughts about our own limits, are actually happening within a context and we are the full context. Were we to remember that we are the full context, now we would be able to separate infinity from personal experience and begin to recognize who we actually are. It's okay if this personality, this person exists and has its moments, has its emotions, its entire life cycle. But it only becomes a problem when we limit ourselves to this individual and we forget that the body is a body that is within the context of space, right? You know what I'm saying? Like space exists in order for a body. Space must exist in order for a body to exist. So we no longer leave out context because the context, the idea of true reality, of the space and the bodies within it, we take ownership over all of that. We recognize that all of that is ourselves. All of that is covered and birthed from the darkness. And by darkness, I mean from consciousness itself, from primary experience. Don't need to fight this person or their emotions. More important, just to remember the context. Because when infinity gets jumbled with personal identity experience, we somehow stop paying attention to context and we're just paying attention to the thoughts of this tiny self. No wonder you feel limited. You dig what I'm saying? No wonder. Any of us would feel limited. And so I get back to that question Jovan was just asking about, what is your relationship to money? I think about money existing in the context. Like it's a part of the energetic situation that is modern human life. That doesn't always need to be the case, and it hasn't always been the case. But at this particular moment in time, like that, it's a part of it, or rather, is a part of it for many people. And so either way, it exists in the context. So I don't see that money or wealth or any of this value is somehow divorced from myself. I understand that all value, we got to start erasing something at some point. Let me start. We need to talk about the path forward. Might as well. I think I'm about to go there right now. I think that's what's coming through right now. So the idea is that all value exists in context. So here's our little person here again. Here's the space that surrounds that person. And what we want to understand is the totality. This whole thing is called, uh, this whole thing is called the context. In other words, if we can just remember that all value exists in context, but in the context, and that context is yourself. When I am needing to trust people, when I am needing to rely on other people, I'm actually not relying on other people. I'm relying on the value that exists within the context of myself. Why? Because every single person also exists within this context. What would that mean? That mean that every single life, that would mean that every single life is one of yours. Every single person is one of yours. That God's divine energy exists within every single person. I am trusting that. Why? Because that value is what exists in the context. That context, of course, is the full totality of reality. In other words, that full context is myself. The principle of the evening is that you are the edge. When you seek the edge of consciousness, you find yourself. Because infinity is its own edge, its own container, its own context. So when you seek the edge, you find out your limitless nature. So you say, okay, well, what's your relationship to money? Money, we talk about money as being about value. Well, all value exists in the context, and that context is the self, the supreme Atman, as the Hindus call it. It is the self. So our path forward tonight is to remember that value exists in the context, and that context is yourself. What happens when you seek the edge of consciousness? You find yourself, the true context, the true context of reality itself. Somehow trusting others is still trusting me at the same time, which means when I'm taking care of my star players, I know I'm taking care of myself at the same time. There's no distinctions when I'm clear. When I come on tonight, and am speaking, I know I'm speaking to myself. Each exists within the context of reality. That context is what we call the self. If you had to visualize it, it would be that darkness that we witnessed earlier this evening. The one without any borders, the one with no edge, and the one that were you to pursue the edge of, were you to pursue and seek the edge of that darkness, which is that consciousness, you could only find yourself. And so, folks, got my pen all up on the floor. Mm. What an interesting one. There is that value in that context. The only thing else I can think of is, oh, hold on. Oh, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. It's Breakthrough Turtle time. Breakthrough Turtle has come through once again for Divine Turtle Time. Breakthrough Turtle joins us every single week with a conversation with a little bit of extra sauce that he wants to add into the conversation for the evening. And typically, Breakthrough Turtle, you're on point. My question is, Breakthrough Turtle, what do you have for me? In order to find the breakthrough, I gotta break him open. Hmm. There you go. There you go. Good looking breakthrough. Breakthrough Turtle, just have a seat right there. Okay. Okay, Breakthrough Turtle. This one feels a little, I don't know, bro. I don't know. Okay, so Breakthrough Turtle saying this. Unconditional love will have the final word in reality. Dr. King. You've been on a Dr. King kick, Break the Turtle. Okay, so unconditional love will have the final word in reality. Break the Turtle, what's that got to do with anything we were talking about tonight? Okay, so Break the Turtle saying unconditional love will have the final word in reality. Mm. As you know, we define love in these here parts as the end of separation, which would mean that were we to seek the edges of consciousness itself and never find an edge, that means we would never find a separation, which would make that consciousness love itself. And if you're saying that unconditional love will have the final word in reality, I dare say that unconditional love is reality itself. If we define love as the end of separation, and yet when we explore the edges of consciousness, we find no edge, we only find ourself. That would mean that ourself and love are one with reality. Unconditional love will have the final word in reality because Unconditional love is the reality upon which any word is spoken. At least I think that's what you mean, breakthrough turtle. You know what I'm saying? If it's not, then let me know. But you know what I'm saying? That's a cool way to close the show out. Hmm. Let me sit with that for a little bit, breakthrough turtle. Let me actually internalize that. Hmm. Could it be that it all resides in the heart? That the space, the darkness, everything that was behind the eyes that we experienced tonight, that the edges of consciousness that we only found ourselves in, somehow, when I explore that energy with my mind, I expand outward, as if the invisible hand is reaching out, out, out into infinite darkness. But were I to explore that same phenomenon energetically from the heart or from the middle dantian, from the energy zone that's in the chest, I see that the heart is holding it all. No expansion because it's already so. Hmm. I'm not going to be able to, I can't formulate that any better. It's just the heart is already holding it all. Folks, I want to say thank you for joining me on tonight. And as we work with these energies, we can see that a potent process is unfolding within each of us tonight. But this is not a process that we can control or engineer, but a process we must surrender to. And we happen to be in luck because when we surrender to this process, we come to find that there was a new sort of power that we had overlooked for years, but now returns in abundance. That's why. If fear is our only enemy, then we bring heaven to earth when we transform our minds. I'm Dr. Shawn, and we were not sent to impress our people. We were sent to transform our people into a light for the world, for God's universe opens to all who believe in breakthrough.